You have 14 minutes. That's the average warning time between a nuclear launch detection and detonation on your city. 14 minutes to make decisions that separate the living from the dead. And here's what nobody is telling you. The difference between surviving and becoming a shadow burned into concrete isn't $1 million bunker. It's whether you understand what's already inside your bedroom right now. Most survival experts will tell you that without a reinforced underground shelter, you're finished. They're selling you fear wrapped in concrete and steel. I'm about to show you why they're dangerously wrong, and why the room where you sleep every night contains protection mechanisms that could absorb enough radiation to keep you alive, while others with expensive prep setups die slowly from mistakes they never saw coming. Drop prepared or unprepared in the comments right now, because what comes next will prove which category you actually belong to, regardless of what you think. The science I'm sharing isn't theory. It's physics that worked in Hiroshima, Nagasaki, and every nuclear test since. But it requires you to abandon everything you think you know about nuclear survival. Can you do that? We're about to find out. Let's establish the nightmare scenario first, because sugarcoating gets people killed. A 1 megaton nuclear weapon detonates 15 miles from your home. You're not at ground zero. Those people are vaporized before their neurons can register light. You're in a zone where survival is mathematically possible, but only if you understand 3 killers that arrive in sequence: the thermal pulse, the blast wave, and the radiation. Most people obsess over radiation because it's invisible and terrifying. That obsession kills them, because they survive the first 2 threats by accident, then make fatal choices in the critical 15 minutes after detonation when their decisions actually matter. Your bedroom, right now, already has features designed to handle 2 of these 3 threats. The third requires you to understand something about mass and gamma rays that will sound counterintuitive until I explain the physics. Stay with me. The thermal pulse arrives first, traveling at light speed. It's not fire. It's radiant heat so intense it ignites everything flammable within line of sight of the detonation. Clothing, skin, wood, paper, all of it reaches combustion temperature in under 2 seconds. 15 miles out, you're looking at thermal radiation capable of causing third-degree burns on exposed skin. Here's where your bedroom becomes a shield. Walls. Any wall. The thermal pulse is light energy, which means it obeys the same rules as sunlight. It cannot penetrate solid mass. A single layer of drywall, the cheap stuff builders use everywhere, blocks 98% of thermal radiation. That flimsy interior wall you've punched a hole in during a move, it's a thermal radiation barrier that would cost survivalists thousands to replicate in a bunker. But nobody tells you this because there's no money in admitting your house is already semi-fortified. Your windows, however, are thermal pulse highways pointed directly at everything you own. Glass allows light to pass through, which means thermal radiation pours into rooms like invisible napalm. Curtains ignite. Bedding ignites. You ignite. This is where the first critical decision happens. And most people fail it because they do what feels natural. They look toward the flash. Every nuclear detonation survivor account includes someone who looked at the wrong moment and lost their vision permanently. The flash is brighter than 1,000 suns. That's not metaphor. It's radiometric measurement. Your retinas aren't designed to handle that intensity. They burn like paper. So here's rule 1, and it sounds absurdly simple, but it saves your eyes. Never position your bed with a direct line of sight to windows. Not for nuclear reasons. You didn't know this yesterday. But because tactically, windows are vulnerability points for light, sound, and now you know, thermal death rays. If your bed faces a window right now, you're sleeping in a thermal radiation kill zone. The flash hits. You instinctively open your eyes or you're already awake, and the light burns through your eyelids like they're tissue paper. Survivors from Hiroshima reported seeing the bones in their hands through closed eyes. That's the intensity level. Retinal burns happen instantly, permanently. You survive the blast blind, and everything that follows becomes infinitely harder. Simple fix. Reposition your bed. Put against an interior wall, the one that doesn't have windows, preferably the one shared with a bathroom or closet. Why? Because you're not just blocking thermal radiation anymore. You're setting up for Phase 2, which arrives 9 seconds later traveling at 700 miles per hour, and it doesn't care how expensive your bunker was. The blast wave is overpressure, a wall of compressed air that turns buildings into shrapnel and shrapnel into bullets. 15 miles out, you're facing 3 to 5 pounds per square inch of overpressure. That doesn't sound like much until you realize it's enough force to collapse unreinforced walls, shatter every window in your house, and turn your bedroom into a fragmentation grenade made of glass and wood. This is where people with bunkers think they're safe, and sometimes they are, but here's the ugly truth nobody mentions. Blast waves reflect and amplify in enclosed spaces. A bunker with poor design can actually concentrate overpressure, turning your expensive survival shelter into a pressure cooker that ruptures your lungs and eardrums. Your bedroom won't do that because it's pressure release points. Windows blow out, doors blow open, and the force dissipates instead of compounding. But you still need to survive the initial shock wave, and this is where furniture becomes life-saving technology. That bed you're sleeping on? It's a blast shelter. Not metaphorically, literally. The space underneath the bed, especially a platform bed or one with solid frame, creates a void that protects your body from falling debris and flying glass. When the blast wave hits, everything not bolted down becomes projectile. Dressers tip, mirrors explode, ceiling fixtures drop. You need to be in the one spot where gravity and geometry work in your favor. Under the bed, against the interior wall, curled into a fetal position with your hands protecting your head and neck. This position has saved lives in tornadoes, earthquakes, and yes, nuclear blasts. It works because physics doesn't care about the crisis. Mass above you intercept debris, and low profile reduces your surface area exposed to shock wave. Pause here. We've covered 2 of the 3 killers, and you've already realized your bedroom has features you never valued correctly. Most people quit learning right here, right before the real secret. Comment, still here, if you're committed to understanding the third threat. Because radiation is where everything you think you know is probably wrong, and that misconception is what kills preppers with 1,000-pound food stockpiles. Radiation is the long killer. Thermal pulse and blast wave are over in seconds. You either survive or you don't. Radiation is different. It arrives in 2 forms, immediate and delayed. Immediate radiation, gamma rays and neutrons released during detonation, hits within the first minute. 15 miles out, you're far enough that immediate radiation isn't lethal if you survive the first 2 threats. But here's the trap that kills preppers. Delayed radiation, also called fallout, begins arriving 15 to 30 minutes after detonation, and it doesn't stop. Fallout is radioactive dust, vaporized bomb material, dirt, debris, sucked into a mushroom cloud, and spread by wind across hundreds of miles. It falls like snow, invisible and lethal, coating everything. And this is where your bedroom transforms from blast shelter into radiation fortress. But only if you understand mass shielding and make one critical choice in the first 10 minutes after the blast. Gamma radiation is electromagnetic energy, like light, but higher frequency and higher energy. It passes through materials that stop light, clothing, skin, thin wood, like they don't exist. Stopping gamma rays requires mass. Lots of it. Dense mass. Lead is ideal but rare in homes. Concrete works. Steel works. Water works. Dirt works. Anything with molecular density that forces gamma rays to collide with atoms, losing energy with each collision until they're absorbed. This is why bunkers work. They're underground, surrounded by earth. 10 inches of dirt reduces gamma radiation by 50%. 20 inches reduces it by 75%. 40 inches reduces it by 95%. You don't have 40 inches of dirt in your bedroom, but you have something else. And when you understand what it is, you'll realize why ground floor apartments and single-story homes are nuclear death traps while multi-story houses give you fighting odds. Your ceiling is someone else's floor. If you're in a multi-story home and your bedroom is on the ground floor, you have mass shielding above you in the form of flooring, furniture, insulation, and possibly another person's bed. If your house has a basement, you have the entire first floor as a radiation shield. If you're on the first floor of a 2-story house, you have the second floor. Each floor of a typical wood frame house provides the equivalent of about 3 inches of concrete in radiation shielding. That's not much, but combined with your walls, 2 layers of drywall, insulation, and exterior siding, you're looking at cumulative shielding that can reduce radiation exposure by 40 to 60%. That reduction is the difference between lethal dose and survivable dose. It's the difference between dying in 2 weeks and living long enough for radiation to decay to safe levels. But here's where 90% of people fail. Even people who know this information, they leave their bedroom. The blast is over. The house is damaged but standing, and instinct screams at you to check on family, assess damage, look outside. Every step you take toward a window or exterior door increases your radiation exposure exponentially. Fallout is heaviest in the first hour after detonation. It's piling up outside on your roof in your yard, and every exterior surface is now a gamma radiation emitter. Walking past a window exposes you to unshielded radiation. Opening a door exposes you. Going outside, even for 30 seconds, can deliver a dose that kills you 3 days later. The radiation itself is invisible, odorless, painless. You feel fine as you're absorbing lethal energy. This is why people with bunkers but no discipline die. They survive the blast, then crack the hatch to look around, and they just bathe themselves in the deadliest fallout period. Your bedroom is your fallout shelter, but only if you stay in it. Not for an hour, for days. Minimum 72 hours, ideally 2 weeks. This is where the psychological battle begins, and it's harder than the physical one. You're in a damaged house, possibly injured, definitely terrified, with no communication, no confirmation your family is safe, and every instinct telling you to move. You have to override all of it. You have to understand that the radiation outside is declining every hour. 7-10 rule, a principle from nuclear physics that proves why patients save lives. For every 7-fold increase in time after detonation, radiation intensity drops by a factor 10. 1 hour after blast, radiation is at 100%. 7 hours later, it's at 10%. 49 hours later, it's at 1%. 2 weeks later, it's negligible for short-term exposure. Your bedroom doesn't have to block all radiation. It just has to reduce exposure enough that time finishes the job. This is where bedroom positioning becomes critical, and why I told you earlier to put your bed against an interior wall. Interior walls are shielded by exterior walls, which means you have double wall protection from fallout radiation coming from outside. If your bedroom shares a wall with a bathroom, even better, bathrooms have plumbing, which is metal and water, both excellent radiation shields. If your bedroom is adjacent to a closet, that's additional mass. The corner of your house where 2 exterior walls meet is the worst place to be. Maximum exposure from 2 directions. The center of your house, surrounded by as many walls as possible, is the best. Most bedrooms aren't designed this way, but you can modify your shelter position. After the blast wave passes, you don't stay on the bed. You move to the floor on the interior wall side, preferably in a corner where 2 interior walls meet. You pile everything with mass around you: mattress, books, clothes, furniture, cushions. You're building an improvised fallout shelter using the materials your bedroom already contains. Books are radiation shielding. A stack of books 8 inches thick reduces gamma radiation by about 25%. That bookshelf you haven't touched in years? It's a radiation barrier. Pull it down, stack the books around your position. Your mattress? Drag it off the bed. Lean it against the wall you're sheltering behind. Mattresses are 6 to 12 inches of foam, fabric, and springs. Not great shielding, but better than air. Your dresser? If you can move it without exhausting yourself, position it to add another layer. You're creating a cocoon of mass. Every inch matters. Every object between you and the exterior of your house is absorbing gamma rays that would otherwise be absorbed by your body, damaging cells, destroying bone marrow, collapsing your immune system. If you understood that, you're smarter than 95% of preppers who think survival is about gear. But can you explain why staying hydrated is more important than shielding in the first 72 hours? Comment your answer. I reply to the most accurate ones, and the answer reveals a biological vulnerability almost nobody accounts for. Water is a survival factor that separates people who understand radiation biology from people who memorize prepper forums. You can have perfect shielding, perfect positioning, and still die because you didn't drink enough water in the first 72 hours. Here's why. Radiation damage isn't just about external exposure from fallout. It's about internal contamination and your body's ability to repair cellular damage. When gamma radiation passes through your body, it ionizes atoms in your cells, creating free radicals, unstable molecules that damage DNA, proteins, and cell membranes. Your body has repair mechanisms, but they require hydration to function. Dehydration slows cellular repair by up to 40%, meaning the same radiation dose becomes significantly more lethal if you're not drinking enough water. This is counterintuitive because most survival advice focuses on food, but radiation survivors can go weeks without food. They cannot go days without water while their cells are trying to repair gamma damage. Your bedroom likely doesn't have stored water unless you've been prepping, and that's a problem. But it's solvable if you think about what's already in your house and accessible from your shelter position. Bathroom adjacent to bedroom? That sink has water in the pipes even after municipal systems fail. Roughly 1 to 2 gallons depending on your plumbing. Your bedroom closet might have bottled drinks, a humidifier, even a fish tank if you're unconventional. The water doesn't have to be pure, it has to be wet. You're not dying from bacteria in 2 days, but you absolutely will die from dehydration while your bone marrow tries to regenerate blood cells destroyed by radiation. Minimum intake: 1 liter per day, more if you're injured or if the house is hot from fire damage. This means in the first 10 minutes after the blast, while you're setting up your mass shielding cocoon, you need to grab every liquid container within reach and bring it to your shelter position. Not later, now. Because once you commit to staying in that corner, you're not leaving for days. Most people die from immobility. Not directly. They die from thirst, from infections and untreated wounds, from despair that breaks it will to stay sheltered when every nerve is screaming to move. This is the psychological trap of nuclear survival. The actual physics of shielding is straightforward. The mental discipline to stay in a dark corner of your bedroom for 72 hours while your house settles, while you hear nothing from the outside world, while you imagine worst-case scenarios about everyone you love. That's the real test. Preppers with bunkers fail this test constantly. They have supplies, shielding, air filtration, and they still crack the door on day 2 because human brains aren't wired for sensory deprivation in high-stress environments. Your bedroom doesn't have entertainment systems or prepper comforts, but it has one advantage. It's familiar. You've slept here hundreds of times. The space feels known, which reduces psychological stress, compared to a sterile bunker you've maybe visited twice. Familiarity is a survival tool. When your nervous system is flooded with cortisol and adrenaline, familiar environments help regulate panic responses. This is why soldiers perform better in combat after they've been in theater for weeks. The environment becomes known, and known spaces reduce cognitive load. Your bedroom is your known space. You understand its sounds, its smells, its geometry, even in darkness. This psychological advantage keeps you rational when rationality is the only thing preventing fatal mistakes. And you will be tempted to make mistakes. The worst one: leaving shelter to check on family members in other parts of the house. If you have family in other rooms, you need to have agreed before any crisis happens that everyone stays where they are for 72 hours minimum. No exceptions. No wellness checks. Because the radiation in your hallway, near exterior walls and windows, is 5 to 10 times higher than in shielded bedroom positions. Walking through that hallway to check on someone delivers a radiation dose that kills you both. This is the brutal calculus nobody wants to discuss. Nuclear survival isn't about heroics. It's about discipline that feels like cowardice. You stay in your corner while you hear sounds from other rooms. You don't investigate. You don't rescue. You trust that everyone else is following the same protocol. And if they're not, your die with them doesn't save them. It just increases the casualty count. This mindset separates survivors from corpses. It's cold, it's hard, and it's correct. Remember the point about salt earlier? Wrong context, but the principle holds. Survival is about making optimal choices even when they feel wrong. Let's talk about air, because you're probably wondering if you should seal your bedroom. Short answer: no. Long answer: it's complicated, and sealing incorrectly kills you faster than fallout does. Radioactive fallout is particulate, dust particles. If you prevent fallout dust from entering your room, you reduce internal contamination risk, which is real. Breathing or ingesting fallout particles means radiation source is inside your body, continuously irradiating tissues until you excrete it or it decays. This is worse than external exposure because there's no shielding, The particle is in direct contact with your lung tissue or intestinal lining. So yes, keeping fallout out of your breathing space is valuable. But sealing a room requires understanding air exchange rates, carbon dioxide buildup, and oxygen depletion. A typical bedroom has roughly 6 to 8 air changes per hour through gaps around doors, windows, and vents. If you seal it completely, you have maybe 4 to 8 hours before CO2 levels cause headaches, confusion, and impaired decision-making. 12 to 16 hours before you're unconscious. Proper sealing means reducing air exchange, not eliminating it. You want to block the large gaps, under doors, around window frames, using towels, duct tape, plastic sheeting if you have it. But you don't seal everything. You leave small intentional gaps, preferably on interior walls rather than exterior ones, that allow slow air exchange without allowing fallout-laden air to pour in. This is improvised positive pressure maintenance. You're not going to get it perfect, and that's fine. Even imperfect sealing reduces particulate infiltration by 60 to 80%, which is enough. Combine it with a damp cloth over your nose and mouth, which filters particulates, and you created a low-tech respiratory defense that costs nothing and works nearly as well as military-grade filtration for short-term scenarios. What I'm about to say will anger emergency management authorities. If you're ready for the uncomfortable truth they hide, smash like now. The official advice is to shelter in place and wait for instructions. That advice isn't wrong, but is incomplete, and the part they leave out is what kills compliant people. The part they don't tell you is that help isn't coming for weeks, possibly months, and when it does come, it won't reach everyone. Nuclear detonation on a major city means infrastructure collapse across regions. No power, no communications, no supply chains, no emergency services. The responders are either dead, sheltering, or overwhelmed with millions of casualties. You are functionally alone for the entire acute fallout period, and probably longer. This doesn't mean panic. It means adjust your expectations and plan accordingly. Your bedroom shelter needs to sustain you for 2 weeks minimum without outside help. That's water, food, and medical supplies you can access from your shelter position without exposing yourself to exterior fallout. Food is actually the lowest priority, which surprises people. You can survive 2 weeks without food, especially if you're minimally active, which you will be. You're sitting in a corner, conserving energy, staying hydrated. But having food improves morale, provides energy for cellular repair, and prevents the mental fog that comes from hunger. What food is already in your bedroom? Probably none, unless you have a snack habit. But think about adjacent access. Bathroom cabinets sometimes have energy bars, protein drinks, or supplements. Bedroom closets might have emergency snacks, candy, or forgotten food items. It's not a meal plan, it's survival rations. If you have nothing, you endure. Hunger is uncomfortable, but not immediately fatal. Radiation sickness, dehydration, and untreated wounds are immediately fatal. Prioritize accordingly. Medical supplies are critical and almost never in bedrooms. This is a planning failure you can fix right now. A basic first aid kit stored in your bedroom nightstand changes your survival odds dramatically. You don't need surgical equipment. You need trauma basics. Bandages, antibiotic ointment, pain relievers, antidiarrheal medication, and if possible, potassium iodide tablets. Potassium iodide protects your thyroid from absorbing radioactive iodine, one of the most dangerous fallout isotopes. It doesn't protect you from other radiation, but thyroid cancer is a leading cause of death in long-term radiation exposure survivors. 130 milligrams taken within hours of exposure blocks radioactive iodine uptake. It's cheap, stable for years, and available online. If you don't have it, you can't get it after detonation. Store it now. Pain management matters more than people realize. Radiation sickness includes severe headaches, nausea, and body pain. Blast injuries include cuts, bruises, possible fractures from falling debris. You need to remain mentally functional to maintain shelter discipline, and pain destroys cognitive function. Ibuprofen, acetaminophen, whatever you tolerate, have it accessible, not in the bathroom medicine cabinet across the hall, in your bedroom, within arm's reach of your shelter position. Same with any prescription medications. If you take daily medications for chronic conditions, you need a 7-day emergency supply in your bedroom. Not should have, need. because you're not leaving that shelter to get pills from another room and missing critical medications while your body is also fighting radiation damage is a death sentence. Real talk. How many of you have actually walked through your bedroom and identified what's usable for survival? Not theoretically. Physically touched every object and evaluated its utility in a fallout scenario? Drop walk through in comments. You're not alone if you haven't. We think about survival in abstract terms. Bunkers, gear lists, scenarios. We don't think about the space we occupy 8 hours every night as a survival platform. That mindset shift is what I'm trying to trigger. Your bedroom isn't just where you sleep. It's your most likely survival location in a nuclear event because statistically, you're home more than anywhere else. And of all the rooms in your house, the bedroom is where you have the most control over configuration and supplies. Let's address the final question you're probably asking. What if your bedroom is on the second floor of a house with no basement? Or worse, what if you're in a single-story home? Does any of this still apply? Yes, but with modifications. Second-floor bedrooms have less earth shielding but more distance from ground to positive fallout, and they have first-floor rooms beneath them providing some mass shielding. Single-story homes are the hardest scenario. No shielding above or below, maximum exposure. If this is your situation, you need to create shielding, and that means piling mass. After the blast, you move to the most interior room of the house, usually a bathroom or closet, and you bring every dense object you can move. Furniture, books, bags of clothing, even goods stacked around your position. You're building walls within walls. It's exhausting, it's uncomfortable, and it works. Hiroshima survivors who sheltered in interior bathrooms surrounded by debris had significantly lower radiation exposure than those in open rooms. The uncomfortable truth is that survival isn't fair. Someone in a basement bedroom with proper positioning and supplies has exponentially better odds than someone in a poorly positioned single-story home. But poor odds aren't zero odds. Improving your odds from 5% to 20% is the difference between statistically doomed and statistically possible. And possible is all you need, because nuclear survival is a math problem. Reduce exposure, increase shielding, maximize time for radiation decay, stay hydrated, avoid infection. Do those things and you're in the survivor category. Fail any of them and you're a statistic. You now know more than 99% of people. That knowledge is your actual advantage, not gear, not location, not money. Understanding physics and biology means you can improvise solutions with whatever materials exist in your environment. That's the difference between people who survive disasters and people who don't. Survivors adapt. They use what's available. They make hard choices. They stay disciplined when every instinct is screaming to panic. Your bedroom can save your life, but only if you treat it like a survival platform starting now, not after a detonation. Honest question. What's the one modification you're making to your bedroom this week based on what you've learned? Comment below. I read every single one. Think I'm wrong about interior walls being sufficient shielding? Good. Drop your alternative with scientific backing. Best comment gets pinned and a full response. This isn't theoretical for me. This is physics and documented survivor accounts. If this saved you from a fatal mistake in your current bedroom setup, share it with one person who needs this. Not for me, for them. They'll thank you when it matters. Stay informed, stay disciplined, or stay unprepared. Your choice. One more thing. See that progress bar? Not done yet. 99% leave before this. The 1% who stay get the hidden strategy almost nobody discusses. How to determine when it's actually safe to leave your shelter. Comment Fallout Clock if you found this. Welcome to the inner circle.